business strategies and technology strategies are becoming inseparable. Driven by the need to scale, form strategic partnerships across ecosystems, and engage customer in new ways, industrial equipment companies are looking for tech solutions that can help them navigate this new reality. Accenture Technology Vision 2021 defines 5 key trends and addresses critical insights into how industrial equipment manufacturers can navigate this change. Don't wait for the new normal. Build it.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Ibrahim Ahmed, a group consulting editor with DataQuest and Cyber Media. A very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of DataQuest and Cyber Media. As you know, the theme this afternoon is transforming industrial and automotive manufacturing for the new normal. I think the opening line in the video was very, very apt, that perhaps there is no better time and no more critical time for business and IT to sync up. I think that's the big lesson that we are learning from this COVID. So every industry has been struggling in this pandemic with its own challenges in trying to keep operations and business running. The industrial equipment and the automotive companies are obviously no different. From managing disrupted manufacturing and supply chain operations to dealing with worker absence, travel limitations, customer outreach, collaboration, identifying new ways of working, the sector has had a lot of challenges to deal with. So perhaps this is the right time for this sector to transform in order to combat these challenges and to maintain growth without really compromising on employee safety. What we want to achieve is how can technology help and what should be the role of technology leaders to enable this transformation in the next 1.5 hours. To discuss this and more, we have a very, very eminent and heavyweight set of experts with us this afternoon. I would like to welcome Parna Ghosh. He is the Vice President and Group CIO with Minda Industries, more than $1 billion group that makes a very wide range of automotive components in 71 countries across the globe. His key role is to align IT strategies with the company's business plan and strategy. He's been a veteran with over 30 years of experience as IT head and in some of the leading organizations such as Honda Motorcycles and Scooters, CNH Industrial, Tata Oyo, Pricol, and Merino Group before that. A very warm welcome, Parna. I would also like to welcome Yogesh Zope, the Chief Digital Officer at the Kalyani Group, which is a multi-billion-dollar engineering, steel, automotive, and non-automotive components, renewable energy and infrastructure, and specialty chemicals company. With an experience of over 28 years in handling, he has been dealing with IT and its alignment with business operations for competitive advantage. Welcome, Yogesh, to this discussion. It's my pleasure. Excuse. It's my pleasure to also welcome Vinod Khode, the Group CIO with the Varroc Group, US $120 million company, which is into lighting, polymer, and a range of automotive components. His responsibility is to strategize and introduce new cutting-edge technologies, develop creative solutions, and be a change agent and the big picture thinker. With over 26 years of experience in US, India, UK, Singapore, he has led IT in organizations like Cummins, KPIT, ADCC, and HCL, HP, serving customers like Hewlett Packard, Deutsche Bank, and NatWest. Welcome to the discussion, Vinod.
Thank you.
I would also be delighted to invite Rajesh Mishra, Senior Vice President and Chief Digital Officer at the Volvo Eicher Commercial Vehicles, that's into building and distribution of a range of trucks and buses, non-automotive engines, and automotive components, with 9 manufacturing facilities across India and exporting to over 34 countries. Rajesh, with more than 30 years of experience uh, in various responsibilities at Eicher Group, Bharti Airtel, and IBM before that, is also constantly introducing innovative technologies and services for driving modernization in commercial transportation in India and the developing world. Welcome, Rajesh. It's also my pleasure to invite Shrikant Subbu, the Chief Information and Security Officer at the TVS Motor Company, the US dollar 2.9 billion group, a two-wheeler company selling more than 3 million units in India and 60 other countries. Shrikant has almost 2 decades of experience in handling various and business alignment roles. Shrikant, welcome to this conference.
Thank you.
And last but not the least, I would like to invite Ankur Agarwal, Managing Director at Technology at Accenture India. Ankur is an IT consulting leader with over 20 years of diverse global experience in consulting, business development, account management, and program and project management. He has an extensive experience in managing large-scale transformational projects spanning Indian and global organizations in 14 countries in areas including automotives, industrial equipment, travel, transportation, life sciences, retail, and FMG. So with that, I hope all the panelists have joined and they are comfortable. I would now like to invite Ankur to come and speak to us to set a backdrop and the discussion objective. Ankur.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with great industry leaders to share Accenture's annual technology vision trends for industrial companies. These are very interesting times. And this is actually the 21st year doing the tech vision. The tech vision in the past also has been a good predictor of important trends that leaders need to follow as you chart your course to the future, right? As a part of this year, more so important because of impact of COVID, we have had interactions with 6,000 plus business and IT professionals in India as well as globally to capture their insights of how they are managing the change and what is the adoption and use of technology enabling them. If you could share the slide for me on screen, please, Ashok. And if you move on to the next slide. What we've realized as a part of this survey and coming up with this vision is two facts have emerged from COVID-19. One, that every business is now a technology business, right? And second, to be successful, companies must learn to adapt and manage change. And change can be as rapid as we've seen in the recent times. In our survey, it came up that about 99% of the industrial executives in India said that COVID has proven to be the unprecedented stress test for their organizations. I mean, in their living memory and for all of us, right? And to counter this, what they have been doing is trying to define tomorrow's market today, innovating with an extreme sense of urgency, and also accelerating the pace of digital transformation. We've now really reached a moment of truth. And there are kind of three key elements creating this moment of truth. One, the pace of exponential technology change is only increasing, which means that leaders will have to continue investing to stay ahead of time. And laggards must act now to close the gap. Otherwise, they'll be absolutely left behind. Second, customer and worker needs and expectations have radically shifted over 1 year. I mean, we were discussing a little bit before we all started this conference that things like health, safety, mental health, security are among the new requirements for loyalty for employees in every organization. All of this is leading to once in a generation replatforming of businesses, right? And with technology as a significant enabler. And the window to achieve this is very small, and the leaders will leap ahead of laggards. I mean, one example we all might have read of or heard of Rolls-Royce, right? They redesigned their entire supply chain to begin producing ventilators, from producing cars. Within 5 weeks, the company secured parts required from 100 different suppliers and started production across 3 sites. There is another example I can recall, Neolix. It's a Beijing-based maker of robo-delivery trucks. During the pandemic, their orders soared because as pandemic cleared off cars from the roads and opened customers' eyes to the advantages of driverless delivery, right? Now, with that backdrop, I'd like to now move on, and if you can move to the next slide, to share with you the 5 key trends that we have identified as a part of our technology vision. The first trend here is to stack strategically. Now, in our survey, what came out is that 90% of the executives believe that their organization's ability to generate business value will increasingly be based on the limitations and the opportunities of the technology architecture, right? So when I say stack, it's the tech stack. So the exponential growth and availability of new technologies have really ignited a new era of business, an era where architecture matters the most, and the industry competition is more a battle of technology stacks. I'll take a relevant example in these times. We are talking about vaccination, right, every day. Moderna is a great example. I mean, they were the first ones who came up with the new vaccine, right? Now, if you dig under the covers and look at how all this happened, they had the new science around messenger RNA and new approaches, but they also had a drug design studio which was powered by the cloud with artificial intelligence, convolutional neural networks integrating and iterating on various models, experiments, results, data, paired with humans and scientists who could operate at an unprecedented pace to come with a new vaccine, right? So as we all think about architecting the new future, right, it's all about how do you get to the cloud and how do you extend it to the edge. It's all about data and AI incorporated and supporting your business. It's about the experience layer to capitalize this new reality that we are all facing. And it's all about security to make sure all of the risk is managed. And that's what we mean by the stacked strategically and the role of that going forward. If we move to the next slide, I'd like to talk about the second trend, right, which is mirrored world, the power of massive, intelligent, and digital twins. Now, this is the power of massive computerized trends that mirror the world, right? So we've talked about digital twins for years. So what's really different now? What we've seen is the big move from simulation to operation to impact. Now that impact is becoming very evident in all these digital twins. And 90% of the executives in our research, this came out, believe that the organizations require a mission control, right? Or a central intelligence hub of sorts to gain insights into the complexities and model their organization's processes, people, and assets. The true next frontier of digital twins is now here, accelerating at hyper speed due to the impact of pandemic, right? As well as in addition to that, there are rapid technology advancements in IoT, modeling, cloud, edge computing. I mean, the IoT sensor-based technologies are also, and the processes are not really new, but their convergence to power digital twins in the built environment is fairly recent. And the pandemic has truly highlighted the importance of the digital twins going beyond reality, productivity, and human experience. I mean, I'll give an example of Unilever, right, which is working with Microsoft to develop intelligent twins at their factories. I mean, the company's strategy, data streaming from connected machines, right, to track the conditions within their factories, then adds a layer of machine learning and AI techniques to test the potential operational changes and improve production efficiency and flexibility. Now with that, the connected devices really send real-time data to their on production variables across the board. This has, I mean, for one digital twin pilot in Brazil, Unilever was able to save millions of dollars, cutting their energy use and increasing their productivity by a couple of percentage points, which is a significant leap. If we move on to the next trend, this is, if we move on to the next slide, please. This third trend is I, the technologist. Now, what do I mean by that? This is about democratization of technology. Now, if I said at the beginning that every business is becoming a digital or a technology business, then every person in that business needs to know technology and needs to be fluent in technology at that. In our survey, it also came out that 90% of the executives agree that the organization must train their people to think like technologists, right? To use and customize technology solutions at an individual level, but not have deep skills in I mean, they can't really become programmers and coders from the second day, right? But this is really critical to ignite innovation and accelerating innovation in the organization. I mean, I'll give an example of our firm. At Accenture, we have a program called Technology Quotient. I mean, there is an IQ and we have a TQ. For every of our 500 plus thousand employees, the measurement of TQ is there and how on a regular basis TQ is improving. And this aspect is going to be important for every company as they drive this future going forward. And it's about equipping different people with tools, low code, no code, right kind of enablers to power up their abilities. I mean, things like Honeycode from Amazon or Power Platform from Microsoft and other platforms. These can help an average person, not really an IT professional, to develop apps and applications in a matter of minutes rather than days or weeks, months that it used to take. And in many ways, this trend is about the rise of what people are now calling as citizen developer, which is supported by all the latest and greatest technologies. I'll give a simple example of G&J Pepsi. I mean, it's a distributor of Pepsi. Two of their IT staff, who were not really trained software developers or programmers, they developed an AI-powered inventory system by using Microsoft's low-code platform Power Apps. And the app that they built allows the employees to take a picture of the shelves, and then the computer vision will automatically recognize the type and the number of bottles on the shelf and create an order for a missing inventory, right? And subsequently requested automatically. I mean, these are not like the IT department coming in and developing these solutions for them. If we move on to the next trend, please. The fourth trend is anywhere, everywhere, bring your own environment. And you would notice that I didn't say bring your own device, right? Because BYOD is the common terminology. I'm calling it BYOE. That's a part of it. BYOD is a part of it, but it's more broader, right? Looking at how we power people to work in their new way and the role of technology in doing that. This is about creating the new culture of how people work in this environment. It's about securing the environment in new ways. And it's all about new modes of working. I mean, we are all aware of virtual reality and augmented reality now being used in factories. So that entire aspect that in a remote factory or in a remote plant, an inspection can be done by a person sitting at his home or somewhere else in the world. It's admirable, right? But it brings up with its own sets of challenges which need to be taken care of. Leaders have always been focused on employee experience, but in this new virtual and hybrid world, that experience needs to be priority for every leader and seamlessly woven into the flow of work and into the culture of organizations. If we move on to the next and the last trend, this is from me to we. And perhaps none of our trends better illustrates the demand for trust and the role technology plays than this particular trend. This is about multi-party systems path through chaos. Now, what does that mean? Now, the future is more about complex ecosystems, right? It's not about individual organizations playing their own roles. Complex ecosystems will help solve big problems we face. I mean, this is about carbon tracking. This is about broader health and healthcare systems. This is about circular supply chains. Now, this is going to involve multiple parties working together. And hence, the time is extremely ripe for multi-party systems like blockchain, distributed ledgers, and I mean, what we are seeing is the real impact of these currently. I mean, we would have all seen or heard how Singapore's digital health passport has recently helped them manage the COVID crisis enabled by all of these multi-party systems. The Circular Supply Chain Consortium, of which Accenture is a part of, right? We've been working with many organizations to work with on this. I mean, it involves everybody from the farmer to the end consumer to track something like a coffee bean from the point of origin to the coffee cup, and having an extreme transparency and trust and traceability all through the supply chain, which has benefits for everybody in the entire supply chain, right? From sustainability to a more equitable distribution of benefits across the supply chain for all partners involved. So with that, I mean, if we move on to the next slide, I mean, these were our 5 trends that have come out as a part of our technology vision and the survey that we have done with leaders in India as well as globally. And I think with this backdrop, I'd like to hand over back to you, Ibrahim, if we could start our panel discussion to.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to an enriching discussion with the leaders here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ankur. I think a very, very insightful presentation. I was about 1.5, 2 months back, I was helping, actually just before the COVID second wave struck, I was helping a cousin of mine to buy a car for his family. And I could sense whatever you have. So I was browsing through the sites of Maruti and Toyota and Honda and Tata and even Mahindra. And I could get a sense that there has been a fairly big transformation in just the websites and the way they are trying to now reach out to end customers like me. Obviously, all you guys are finally, through various technologies and through your own infrastructure, are finally trying to reach out to to help the guys like me take better decisions and faster decisions. So I think this journey, some of these leaders have already started this journey. I fully agree with and endorse the presentation that you made. So without really any further ado, I will start this panel discussion. Just one request is that we have this limitation of time, as you all know, all of you are very, very busy people. So I would want all of you to keep your answers as crisp and to the point as possible and limit it to the discussion point or to the question that we are asking. So it will help us cover a lot more of relevant stuff. So Rajesh, what is your, when exactly, this is right now, it is 3:24. So when do you want to leave?
So I can go up to 3:35 maximum.
3:35. Okay. So anyway, so let me just then start with Rajesh, because I had thought that I'll keep the first question, which was a more generic question. But let me start with Rajesh. And Rajesh, you know the entire backdrop and you know how the situation is today. And before this started, you also shared with us some things. So has business collaboration become an essential part of the business continuity planning strategy today to improve resilience? How has the space evolved as a means to overcome things like travel restrictions or customer meetings, plant maintenance, customer support, training, etc.? So what are you seeing there?
Absolutely, I think this has become the backbone. As simple tool, a virtual meeting tool has really become a backbone of the organization. The way I look at it, it is not limited to your internal stakeholders, but also to your external stakeholders like supplier and dealers. And what additionally it has brought in, the engagement level have gone very high. So earlier, in a typical automotive company, you will have supplier conference every year and dealer meetings every quarter or every 6 months. Now you are able to connect very frequently. So whether it's a issue-based connect or performance connect or strategy connect, so business collaboration has become the hallmark. Other example I would like to give is about supply chain. The kind of disruptions which we have gone through on supply chain, particularly certain materials which went global shortages, everybody was struggling, and this collaboration only could prioritize, number of meetings you are doing, number of convincing you are doing with your suppliers they are able to prioritize and keep your, making your commitments coming true. So I see, it has a huge, indirect impact. Other impact of business collaboration, and Ankur talked about it briefly. See, this transformation which we have gone through last year, it has created huge ownership in business about digitalization or digital transformation. So they have understood the power of digital now. This is how we see. Simple things like we had multiple apps in our ecosystem, and beside the initial euphoria of app launch and usage, they found this is a great mechanism to collaborate with their dealers and suppliers, right? So they themselves came up asking for more feature, more content. So collaboration is not is all around. So tech has enabled collaboration across the spectrum. That's how I see it.
Okay. So, Rajesh, since you also have to leave a little early, so and yours was actually the second question, but now that you're here, let me ask you this, and I will then come to Yogesh. So, what are the kind of challenges that you have been seeing in running operations and business ever since COVID-19 struck last year?
So in terms of challenges, I think I was briefly talking about it prior to this webinar. See, one is that unlike last phase of COVID, which was in last year, this time, while we have created some very unique customer engagement platforms for getting customer onboarded on our products, meeting with them, inquiry management, aggregators, integration. We did a lot of rapid digitalization in the customer area. We are now in this year, we are seeing that customer are again wanting more face-to-face interaction, more visits, more product demonstration. That is on the customer side. And second challenge which I am seeing this time is about people. I think during this COVID this time, practically everybody has got impacted in their family or themselves or relatives. So the whole inertia of pulling it back and coming back on roads and bringing that energy and momentum, that is the second challenge I see today. Third is that around supply chain. So supply chain, while demand also got impacted in second wave, but supply chain do have a lot of challenges still coming in, with primarily in certain part of the world. So which is again a very very close watch in terms of how do you manage it. And so these are the three areas which we see that in this year going forward, we have to work on it in terms of getting back to complete control.
Yeah, that's I think very very relevant. So let me come to you, Rajesh. Anything else that you would like to add? You had the questions.
Yeah,
Anything else that you would like to this entire? Yes, please.
Yeah. So just a couple of more points I had that for us automotive, particularly commercial vehicle, it was a double whammy for us because we were getting into BS6 also. And from a BS6 technology perspective, CV was supposed to be getting more complex because the amount of electronics getting into the vehicle, managing this electronics at dealership, educating customers how to use the product better. Otherwise, it will call for major rework, etc. That was another challenge which we were working on. So now with COVID coming in, the again digitalization could help us overcome these challenges. So simple tools like virtual classrooms, and we did some innovation on the remote diagnostic front. We created app-based diagnostic tools where we have set up an uptime center which can take control of the vehicle remotely and troubleshoot. So some of the very simple tech-based product innovation helped us to take care of this situation. Secondly, what also happened that in at least in our industry, because of BS6 and BS4, we started working on our connected story very strongly, which means that lot of leveraging of AI and ML, and we had set up a full-fledged uptime center, which is not been only been able to do a reactive support, but also a proactive support by predicting the failure of the vehicle. So these are some of the innovations where tech could help us and give us a competitive advantage in the marketplace vis-a-vis, during COVID time or with BS6 introduction. So these are a couple of thoughts I wanted to share.
And you also talked about, Rajesh, when we were discussing before the session started, about how things have been easy. The migration, the journey has been easy because it's a slightly slow down time because of COVID, because a lot of experimentation and things that you want to do, but you don't get time for that from the stakeholders was available because things had slowed down. So
So
any
so you are right, and then you have to find the different ways to manage the outcome. So I'll give you a few example. And fortunately, we had a few digital ecosystem already in place for some of the field failure where you have to redesign the part or redesign the part of the product and immediately introduce a change. And and it needs certain validation life cycle where you have to actually drive the truck and manage it. So we could do a lot of this thing what Ankur talked about, digital twins. We have a complete integrated product development platform where we could perform a lot of virtual proto and validation cycles, manufacturing validation cycles. So so digital is everywhere now. In fact, in manufacturing also, we have a very robust manufacturing execution setups. And during these times, because of a lot of absenteeism of skilled workers, so the problem in automotive is that we have a lot of contractual worker and very little permanent worker typically, right? And people have gone homes, right? So you are more dependent on unskilled teams. So how do you quickly train them up using these technologies which are already in place on real-time basis on shop floor and able to observe their performance? So a lot of digital innovation has happened in this space also in the manufacturing domain.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rajesh. I hope you will be around till the time you get a call for your board meeting. Thank you so much. Let me come to Yogesh. Yogesh, you have heard Rajesh share his experiences and views. From your understanding and from your experience, for your organization as well as for the rest of the industry, what do you think are some of the important challenges that we have been seeing in running operations and business after the advent of COVID last year? Yogesh.
I will agree with Rajesh on most of the point because that's the struggle most of the industry is going through. I'll say first wave of COVID and second wave of COVID, there was a lot of difference. Of course, it was second wave was impacted badly, but then in second phase, actually they allowed to keep the operations on at least. So the operations were on. Of course, the supply chain challenges were very large like for most of the industry. For us, it was more because you need oxygen to produce steel, and then obviously we were not supposed to use any oxygen for manufacturing the steel. So right from steel to getting any other support in supply chain was a challenge. Apart from that, like any other industry, absence of the skilled worker, that was of course one challenge which we went through. Third is, I would say, demand, which is for most of the people had this challenge, and these were the three major challenge we had. But then at the same time, there was lot of, as everyone is saying, that COVID has pushed the transformation at a very large level, with a very larger speed, because typically a company like ours, which has a legacy of 60 years, changing anything takes little time. But then literally we saw the speed of change, phenomenal speed of change during last 1.5 years, or I will say, to be precise, one year. Because at least first month we were just struggling out how to devise our strategy with respect to overall how to prepare a game plan for next few months. So if you are tracking Bharat Forge, we did something good, like the example which Ankur was giving about Rolls-Royce. We also developed a ventilator. We were able to deliver some ventilators. In second phase, actually, we decided to, with PMO's request, we decided to manufacture the oxygen cylinders. And trust me, within 5 weeks, we were able to manufacture the oxygen cylinder. If you know oxygen cylinder, these are typically aluminum. And then Bharat Forge in India, we don't have much of aluminum capabilities. But then Mr. Baba Kalyani, being Baba Kalyani, took a challenge, and practically we delivered these oxygen cylinders, and with a mass production, with all the compliance, all the certifications related to oxygen cylinder. And then I saw the way of using technology during that time, the way collaboration happens. No one would have thought that Bharat Forge would leverage on simple platform like Microsoft Teams or maybe analytics to bridge the gaps and actually deliver the product in 5 months, 5 weeks, sorry. And so this was like everyone single truth on a single platform, eliminate the media breaks, no mails, avoid communication on WhatsApp, maximum communication should be only on the platform. And that actually changed everything. And I would say that the need for the change was felt by everyone. And then once people start seeing the impact of it on the shop floor, I would say, see, service function anyway use IT little bit, but then manufacturing, typically Bharat Forge stories, we started our industry 4.0 3 years back. And the overall trainings and then the structured approach we took towards that. The fun part was during COVID time, where challenges like, okay, certification auditors are will not able to visit to your factory. So how to ensure that you give similar experience to the auditor, as if he is doing the physical audit. So will you able to use the AR technology for that? Will you able to use real time capturing of all the information and present it to the auditor from the plant, from the sensors, to give him comfort, to give the auditor confidence? Because at the end of the day, everything is virtual. And then everyone was skeptical earlier to do the certification online. But then once you start seeing the preparedness of on the shop floor, we could give a lot of confidence there. So in short, I think COVID brought a lot of opportunities also, as everyone is saying. The speed has actually changed. Means we did not had the O365 platform year back, and then we not only deployed it, and not for video conferencing or that thing. I would say primary use of O365 was for collaboration. And collaboration means sharing the information, having the dashboard available to the guys on shop floor. And that was fascinating. That was fascinating. That's all from my side.
Thanks so much, Yogesh. I think, your points are very, very important, and some of these things people have been experiencing. Thank you so much. So, before I come to Parna and Shrikant, let me go to Vinod. Vinod, before I ask you a direct question, would you like to respond to any of the comments that you heard from the other speakers so far? Or would you like to add to whatever has been said so far? And then I will come to the question that.
So if you notice the challenges that they talked about, and once you go through all the people in the panel, you feel that we are all sharing the common challenges. So Rajiv talked about challenge with customer needing technology, then people challenges, even Yogesh talked about the skilled people are not there, and Rajesh brought out a good point that automotive industry, the way we do, we have more contractual people, and then suddenly they were gone. And then supply chain challenges were there. And all of this, if you see, when you talk about people and even supply chain, it's all collaboration. So collaboration, which was earlier all phone calls face to face, suddenly all of a sudden one fine day it was all gone. And as Yogesh said, fortunately some of were already into Office 65 or these type of things. Some people are using the Google tool set, but the collaboration tools helped immensely to bridge people and let them meet each other and exchange their views, exchange ideas, document, and meet collaboratively to make the difference. I think that I could see has been a huge thing. And Rajesh brought out memories when I was in my earlier role in a commercial vehicle manufacturing company. All those diagnostic tools using AI and machine learning is a need of hour, because whatever testing you can do on the field, on the roads, if suddenly you are not allowed to do it, what do? You simulate. So this the digital twin capability is definitely, Ankur also talked about it. So yeah, I think technology is there to stay now, and I would say, in a way, sometime you have to look at just before um, this thing started, we are talking about that you also have to look at from the positive side of it. If something bad happened, there is a positive side to it. If I take an example, the amount of innovation which happened during the World War II, at the speed at which all these things happened, like the invention of radar and the aircrafts and things like that, that would have taken years if World War II didn't happen. So similar to that, I think sometimes you have to also look at this positive side of it. That's it.
Yeah, you are right. I think necessity is the mother of invention. So yes, I think these challenges have been very well articulated. So let me just ask you, Vinod, about this supply chain, because I think that is something everybody has talked about so far. So what are some of the key challenges with supply chain management that organizations in this sector are facing, and how is technology being used to enhance supply chain efficiencies?
Sure. So again, leaning on things which were said earlier by Ankur, Yogesh, and Rajesh, that I was reading a document. I could see that there was a 76% increase in disruptive changes as compared to it was 3 years back. Okay. And if you notice, Rajesh also talked about their customers are asking for technology, and in terms of supply chain, if you see, like, we are B2B, and there are a lot of people who are B2C, but at the end you are dealing with a customer. Whatever we do are doing it for a customer, and this is the same customer who goes home, orders a pizza for his kid, and he has experienced the power of technology. He knows that, okay, he goes to Zomato and see, oh, this pizza is going to take 45 minutes, this will take 20 minutes, I'll go for this. He can also check the price, and once he has ordered, he can also track it all the way back, because his kid is behind his back and say when is going to come. So the same person, is demanding certain things, and this is the customer need or customer expectation. So supply chain has also gone through this. We already talked about the disruptive changes, the fluctuation in demand. So I would say primarily two areas where at least we also faced is the fluctuating demand, and because of this, the disruption which was brought in at the inventory levels. And what needs to be in terms of technology, which needs to be used for trying to tackle these challenges, is I'll try to talk it in three senses: existing technologies that you already have, the new one which are the mature ones, and you can now use them. They are no longer a myth, and Ankur talked about some of those, and the upcoming technologies, because you have to keep an eye open for what's going to come next. So in terms of existing technology, all of us are using some kind of big ERP, whether it is Oracle ERP or SAP, and you need to like make sure that you have maximized the usage and stabilize the operation where you have a clean data, like whether you talk about master data management or your MRPs or your advanced shipment notice, EDI. So these are the things. If they are stabilized, you have a clean set of data on which this new technology can sit on and take the maximum. Because if your input is wrong, garbage in garbage out scenario will come. So I think these are the things that we also at Varroc had worked on, and in the last 1 year, we have worked heavily on making sure our master data is right. We stabilized the operation. We made sure the processes are common. We centralized the MDM team, which is across all the plants. And on MRP, we did a very big effort for starting last May. This is just when I joined Varroc, and we did an audit. Where are we on MRP? We are not at a very good level in adoption rate. And after doing a lot of hand-holding, month-to-month governance, forming a CFT team, we are at a very there was 40% increase in the MRP adoption, and we are at a very healthy level now. So I think the message is stabilize your existing technology, because they're going to help in adopting the new technologies. And then coming to the new technologies, some of the notes which I was taking when Ankur was talking about that the tools like RPA, the low code, no code, advanced analytics, and then citizen developer, what Ankur talked about is democratize the power of this and not let it be limited to the small IT team, because all of this manufacturing unit, we do not have a big IT team. We lean on vendors to do some of the work. So it's essential that we democratize that. So which is where I think what we have seen as a benchmark when we started this journey, we started looking what people have done. We found out there is a huge adoption of RPA in procure to pay. Then using technology, one important part of supply chain is shipment tracking. And I remember, I think I read it in DataQuest, or was it in Economic Times, that government has come up with this circular like I-40, where all the first fit commercial vehicle need to have the GPS. So they are there. Logistic company have bought those vehicles either from Eicher or Tata or Mahindra, but they all have their own website. So if I want to track something, I have to go to their website and get this data. So people have actually use RPA to do that grunt work, and it gets the data. Then a lot of contract lifecycle management, which is an important part of supply chain, is using processing for contract documentation, pulling out something which is already there in the earlier contract, or look for some anomalies or gap which can trouble you if you sign the contract. So that is coming up. So in case of Varroc, what we did in this area is we identified some low-hanging fruits which can help us in procure to pay, and automated the account payable. This is like typical, the invoice coming at your plant's gate, and a person is entering. And then we also had this scenario with Rajesh in Yogesh talked about. The skilled person who knew how to do this was gone. He decided to go back to his hometown for obvious reasons. So now what we have done is it is like automated. You scan it, it pulls the data, talks to SAP, verifies the accuracy, and punches the thing. And then it goes all the way there. So we have done it using Power Platform, which Ankur also talked about, Power Apps. and some services from Microsoft Azure, like Microsoft Form Recognition, use Tesseract, and it is also helping in collaboration. Like one of the error condition is that something comes in, we find that, oh, there is no demand in SAP, so the schedule is not there, and why this person sending something? So we collaborate. Since it is in Microsoft Power Platform, we can send it to the right person that there is something sitting at the gate. Do you want this? Put in the schedule and then come back. So all of that is now working. We are in a pilot phase with 5 plants. Then inventory governance is something which I talked about earlier. Like if the demand fluctuates, if there's a panic buying, and then suddenly the demand goes down. So now you have excess inventory of something, or inventory that you need is not there. So what we have done is past 3-4 months, we have been doing a whole exercise of having a training exercise for people from right from the top till the people in the trenches, is how to manage inventory. What is a good inventory? What is a bad inventory? What is a lockout condition? And created some logics, and based on that we have created inventory report using ClickView. We use the BI platform as ClickView, and when they come to office, all of this is already churned. Earlier they used to pull data in Excel sheet. Now they exactly know where they have to focus to get the inventory right. And we could see that once we started, the inventory level tried to get to the optimum condition. Now there's a next step that we have to do, is to build in machine learning based on the data that we have, to do some forecasting, which is something which is in progress. And then I already talked about the low code, no code scenario that we have used Power Platform to create some good collaborative applications, which usually takes weeks and months. And now since we are having this tool within our Office 365 platform, we don't have to put more capex to this, no new servers. We just trained our team, and I would be happy to say that when we started this last year, they were like 0. Now we have about 13 low code, no code application built in Power Platform, and people are now literally queued up that when is my turn, I want to get this done. So they are now feeling, they are appreciating the power of collaborative way of working. And the last one I talked about is upcoming technologies. Now, digital twin, which Ankur talked about, I've also come across digital twin for supply chain. So this is something new, where it's like visualizing the whole value chain of supply chain, right from your ordering, or you can also do a reverse demand to where you go to the tier 3 supplier and see how the product is moving, the raw material is moving, or the finished good is moving from there to your OEM. So that is that. And then recently I came across a document which probably Accenture is already a part of that consortium, is Catena X, which is an auto supply chain network, which necessarily I could see that most of the players in that consortium is from Germany, like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and even SAP, ZF, and T-Mobile. So what they are trying to do is create a collaborative space where you have open network where you can exchange data, and it is transparent and visible to you. And of course, I won't be surprised if blockchain becomes a part of it, because you have a ledger that you can keep on updating. And of course, the machine learning part is the upcoming technology that we have to keep tab of. And why we should be doing this, if I just give an example that I came across, that all these big consulting company like Gartner publishes the top 25 companies who have the best supply chain. And looking at 2017 list, I just looked at the top 5, and the top 5 of this year, 2021. One in the 2017 list is still in current top 5. Second one has slipped to 11th position, and 3 of the top 5 in 17 are no longer in top 25. And I won't take the names, but if you look at this list and you try to backtrack, they were not fast enough to adopt technologies, and now they are trying to do a catch up because they want to still go back to their coveted top 5 space. And some of them were there in 2020, early 2020 when this list came out, but not there in 2019, which clearly tells that the pandemic impact, they were not ready. And the last but not the least, one thing that I experienced myself at home, in few years, this Generation Z that we call would be the workforce. Okay, now when they come in and you give them the technology that we are using today, I don't think they'll appreciate. They'll say, "Oh, this is already there in my this tool. Why can't you guys do it?" So I think that is also, if you want to, and everybody talked about the people challenge. So you will also have a people challenge if you do not have a right tool set and you're not keeping a tab on the technologies. Okay, so I think that's all what I want to say. Thank you.
Last point about the next generation, I completely agree with it, and I also see that, sense that at my home. So Ankur, before I come to you, I wanted you to speak about data analytics and then about the Industry 4.0. Let me just talk to Parna and then Shrikant and get their views on this. So Parna, you have been waiting for some time now. So would you like to talk about or respond to some of the things which have been spoken of by the speakers before you? And then I could talk to you about business collaboration as an essential part of business continuity and what's happening there. Parna.
Good afternoon, all of you, and thanks for inviting me for this event. See, basically, as we are, most of us are from the auto ancillary industry, and our major customers are mostly the OEMs, and we all are dealing with our tier twos and threes and fours like that. So I think the scenarios are mostly same, but yeah, certain initiatives may change or may differ, in terms of prioritization or something like that. So I'll just focus on certain things, like we are always talking about this decade as a data driven economy decade. So previously sometime it was mostly called capex economy, sometimes used to call as a resource economy, sometimes used to call as a digital economy or something. So I think today's time, when we talk about data driven economy, so your entire strategy, your entire thinking, your entire roadmap, your initiatives, your organization's growth, all has to depend on data. Now I think somebody was mentioning about GIGO, like garbage in and garbage out. So I think the most important part in data is how you ensure that the data input, whether it is masters or transactions or every sphere of your organization, the data is captured correctly. So I think this is philosophy number one, or I believe the target number one we have taken in our organization. And second is, in last few years, our digitization focus was mostly in and around HR and finance. So whether it is implementation of digital HRM, or its implementation of a lot of financial tools in terms of consolidation, compliance management, audit management, or you can say supply chain financing, forex management, and cash flow cash flow management, and all the other areas of finance. So that is one of the things we have achieved in last few years. But since pandemic has hit us badly, and all of us were working from home from last March, rather when the first pandemic was announced, first lockdown was announced, I think the major focus has shifted from HR, finance, and other areas to manufacturing, supply chain, logistics, and related areas, obviously materials and supply chain. So the major reason why I'm talking about this is because these are the areas most of the organizations were always lagging behind, or I will say having less amount of digitalization, or I will say less focus area from the management, because most of the things were happening physically, and there was less impact on the digital side. But I think the focus changed from the pandemic time, and everybody was started focusing upon the manufacturing, shop floor automation, and supply chain automation, and also logistics transformation. I think these are the areas the focus started happening, and we are also on the same side. So looking at the value creation of the organization, whether stakeholder value creation or employee experience management, customer satisfaction, quality improvement, safety improvement. Somebody talked about safety in the beginning. So I think if you look at all the areas of the organization, and also adoption of the new technologies in terms of supporting the organization to leapfrog. When I say leapfrog, I'm talking about not only being relevant in the current time, but also somebody was speaking about is how to become relevant for future. So I think these technologies are really helping, whether it is IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain. A lot of pilots are going on in blockchain at this point of time. Data analytics, big data analytics implementation, or even AR, VR for trainings and other areas. So I think use of digital technologies is really helping up shaping up the entire organization differently, and that is where the digital transformation is happening. Last but not the least, I want to focus upon is we always talk about case like connected or autonomous, shared and electric. I think this is the concept which started disrupting the entire ecosystem few years from few years back, for 4 or 5 years back. Shared mobility has already reached its peak, and I think it has some saturation going on right now. Maybe there will be some transformation happening, and I believe if you remember the ecosystem, the shared mobility now has started involving themselves in different other services. They are also disrupting themselves, and they are diversifying a lot. But in terms of electric, I think the penetration we are seeing, it's improving a lot, very fast. Connected vehicles, obviously we talk about telematics and other connected vehicles, but obviously in India it is taking some time, but hopefully in next 4 or 5 years you will see a lot of proliferation. Looking at the petrol and diesel prices, I think definitely people will be looking for more digital and autonomous and electric mobility. I think this is going to be the future for the entire mobility sector. And also I want to focus upon the area is like the way management is looking at digital transformation now is not just to do digital for the sake of digital. It is about the matter of sustainability, relevance in the global competitive area, and also your customers are looking at how you're transforming yourself. It's not that, okay, I mean, I am doing some projects. Earlier we used to say IT has 50 projects, but now we don't say projects. Every use case or every technology is linked to certain business case. So these business cases are there, and obviously whether it is bottom line improvement or revenue improvement or your employee experience improvement or customer experience improvement, somewhere it is definitely hitting the belt. And obviously we are trying to understand where and how to invest and how to make sure the investments are going into the right direction and giving the lots of benefit in terms of payback, ROI, or many times we say return on experience. So I think this is what the directions are going, and I believe we are also on the same journey at this point of time. So the focus area, to summarize, is manufacturing, supply chain, logistics, and materials. This is the focus area this year and also going to be in next few years.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot, Parna. I think very, very valid points. And yes, what's emerging very clearly is that, as you said, from projects to use case and business case, and we can very clearly see that, as they say, necessity and criticality is the mother of invention. So I think the leaders are really taking those first steps, and they are really moving ahead, especially at a time of crisis like this. Thank you so much. Let me come to Srikanth and ask him, what are some of the technologies that you think are inspiring the current crisis, which is having a lasting effect on this sector? This list of technologies could be AI, blockchain, IoT, digital twins, cloud. It's a long list: automation, tech, AR, VR, and so on. Srikanth.
See, thanks. Good afternoon. The speakers have already discussed about all the challenging areas and other areas. But when we come to the operation, since we are IT, already we have enough controls on the areas of risk management and other areas. But when it comes to operation, there's no kind of risk control, risk management, or any kind of managing the risk in that case. So are we having a third-party risk management on that kind of things? So there are a lot of innovations happening, like as you said, AI, robotic, RPA, a lot of innovations happening. But what are the risks in that also we have to find out, because a lot of attack vectors are happening in the new technologies, which is like IIoT or any kind of RPA, kind of action happening. So where are the so some of the witness and other areas are outsourced delivery sectors. There are a lot of since there are a lot of lockdowns, people slowly coming into the premises, and that is how you are managing that, the impact on the current situation, how the controls are there. So really we are looking at the AI technology, machine learning are already informed. So that's one we are very mainly looking at that area. And if it comes to concept of IoT, people extremely looking at in this plant. Each and every plant, we have around 3, 4, 5, 6 plants are there. We are right now evaluating the AI technology in the operation area. Since it is a developing area, we are doing a slow in pitch of that. Since a lot of mobility platforms are increasing, like cloud platform, other areas are increasing. So we are also looking at the deep learning of AI and other machine learning experience in that case.
Inputs. Ankur, is
Yes, sir.
Ankur there? I don't. Yeah. Ankur, please don't mind, but I want to ask you 2 questions, and I think they are very
Yes.
important.
Please.
So one is on data analytics, and the other one is on this entire industry 4.0 journey. So on the data analytics thing, how do you think that the role of data analytics has been evolving during this pandemic? Is there a need for greater analytics adoption now to gain better visibility into different types of data related to supply chain and various aspects of manufacturing? So that was my first question about data analytics. But however, before that, if you have any comments to the things that have been said so far by the speakers before you, so if you would like to give brief comments to something that has been said earlier. If not, then this is my first question is on data analytics.
Let me address your.
We have about 20 plus more minutes now, so we have to.
Sure. Let me address your first question, and then maybe I'll comment on the various points that I've got discussed.
Please.
I mean, role of data and analytics, it's a great question, right? We've been talking about the significant amount of disruption that has happened because of COVID across consumer supply chains and obviously the economic fallout because of that. But the data analytics field faces a very complicated problem, right? Now, how to use past data and predict future behavior when there is significant amount of uncertainty, correct? Now, as someone said, right, it's hard to get good data about the future, right? And that's why we used the data from the past, correct? But if the past is no longer able to guide the future, then we are going to have a tough time, correct? Doing any sorts of predictive analytics or what have you. I mean, in my view and what we are discussing with our clients and what we are researching at Accenture, companies are actually taking time to pause and assess what data is still relevant right now, correct? I mean, things are changing so dramatically and rapidly. So organizations had earlier gravitated towards predictive analytics, and a lot of speakers and leaders here mentioned about leveraging analytics. And I think they were trying to take that journey to predictive analytics over the last few years. And as they use data to anticipate future trends and needs. But forecasting demand is difficult even in normal times, correct? I mean, always forecast is not really easy. But the pandemic's unpredictability has been extremely challenging on top of that. So since the pandemic started, the executives have, in a way, kind of sidetracked the predictive analytics algorithms, and they have pivoted back to simple descriptive analytics, right? Good data about the present and the recent past that is quickly available, correct, to deal with the situations here and now. Also, with outside factors causing significant disruption, and the internal data about the past activities no longer being a good predictor of the future, the companies are turning to figure out what's going on outside, right? Particularly on consumer behavior and consumer demand. Now, one of the things with data and analytics that a lot of organizations typically tend to do is that they become internally focused, right? Gather a lot of data. So switching to figuring out what's going on outside and with the people who aren't even our customers and so on, right, are really good things to do. Companies need agility to really incorporate this external data, because incorporating all that big data, external data into your system is not really easy. But analytics professionals today are being asked to predict the impact of COVID on the business. Now, but to do that, they really need to predict what's going to happen with COVID, right? So in a way, they have to become epidemiologists rather than analytics professionals in some shape and form. So some companies are, as I see them, are looking at other economic indicators like, how is the overall movement through ports happening? What are the overall consumer confidence levels? I think car companies are like customers of a lot of our colleagues here. They are looking at even smog levels in certain cities as indicators of how much driving is taking place, correct? And with more smog, meaning, I mean, there is more driving, and that is hinting a bit of a return to normalcy, and people are buying again or getting back to normalcy. So when companies go into cost cutting mode, they do want to do that in a smarter way. According to me, in these disruptive times, analytics and data science are a great asset and a great investment for organizations to do. And we are absolutely helping our clients in setting up a lot of data and analytics COEs or reshaping them. But it needs to be thought of a little differently because of some of the points that I mentioned.
Yeah, I think very true. And data, you can build all the systems and processes and get the best of hardware and other technologies, but the quality of data will really differentiate between everything. Any other analyst here would like to comment on this data aspect or data analytics aspect of this thing?
So just one small comment here is the tools that we have now. If you notice, Power BI has an AutoML, then AWS has QuickSight ML, then ClickSense, which is another version of ClickView, has called Insight Advisor. So what they are trying to do is for a simpler sort of models, like random cut forest is one of the things Ankur probably would know better than me. These are now getting inbuilt into the tool, and this is more, in Tableau has something similar. So they are trying to encourage people at least a smaller scale. They try to do their own, forecast using machine learning, and it's smartly being called as intelligent insights. So it is all, you study the data which is already there in your data mart, data lakes, or data warehouse, put these tools on top of it and configure it, let it learn, and then it will start giving forecast. I have myself experienced, I was amazed by the level of accuracy it can get to. I won't name the tool just to be fair, but we were trying to forecast that collective energy cost of a cluster of plants. What would it take? So we were like trying to get all the data from the manufacturing trends from last 2-3 years, and the the bill that we got from the electric boards, and added on top of it how much it has increased over the year. So all this configuration put in place. On 15th of this month, we were able to and this again was my previous role, we were able to come to a stage where we can forecast, so that what Parna was talking about is whether it is top line or bottom line. So your managed expenses, if you are able to keep a tab on it and take corrective action, not after the end of month, but before that, you are able to get the advantage of it. So what I'm trying to say is now these tools are getting inbuilt and they are coming with this feature. But unless we train ourselves to appreciate it, what does it really mean to me, we'll not be able to. So this tool will be there as a part of your arsenal and the tech stack which Ankur talked about. But since you don't know how to use it, it will just sit there. And one example that I just talked about earlier is we had Office 365 for about 2 years, and we are not using Power Apps at all. So similar to that. So I think AI and machine learning are slowly becoming to some extent like citizen kind of tools, to not to the level where which Rajesh talked about, or even Shrikant talked about. You won't be able to eliminate the data scientist, because they will come in for a really a niche area where you have to do all this. But in area you definitely would be able to self-sufficient.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
any
my experience,
yeah.
we had made a roadmap. We first time came out with the dashboard concept in 2018. December, we launched the dashboards in the organization, and we launched around 25 dashboards, in the first instance. And then we had a roadmap. So what we did is we sliced and diced the information in a manner like, currently we will be with the historical dashboards, then we'll be having certain analytical dashboards, and then we come up with the predictive dashboards, and then prescriptive dashboards. So this was our roadmap, and we were basically following the same roadmap for last till 2019 end, and then the pandemic came, and suddenly we don't know, the entire roadmap went into haywire. And suddenly we discovered that we have developed some dashboards which we planned in 2021 or 2022, which was already delivered in 2020 because of the need. So that's what I think somebody was speaking in the beginning, that pandemic has also, helped most of the organization in the digital transformation. So actually it's a negative thing to think about, but look at the push or the pressure. We always used to call VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. But this this pandemic, with the new complexity of virus attack and whatever, so has entered, has ensured a new dimension, and most of the organizations started, like I can tell you, and auto ancillaries were very slow in adopting analytics and dashboards. But if you look at most of the organizations sitting here, like Yogesh is there, Vinod, or other my colleagues, most of them have already implemented dashboards, and many of them are in the advanced stage of implementation of data analytics, or AI ML use cases, or I mean most of them are mostly come out of the pilot stage and now doing deployment. So the point what I'm trying to say is, so whatever roadmaps we have prepared for last few years have all gone into a turmoil, and we are now the people are becoming data hungry, information hungry. I was talking in another panel in the morning, and we were discussing that most of the decisions in our organization is now happening through dashboards. And our chairman, who is not that familiar with using the dashboards and always clicking here and there and something, he's asking, in review, please show me the dashboard. Where is your dashboard? Why your dashboard is not ready? Why you have not tested it, or something. So whether it is your our MIS reviews, whether it is a management review, whether it is some strategic decision making, or whether it is any operational decision making, or the operational decisions. We have 100 dashboards now in the organizations, and every function is using dashboards for management reviews and leadership reviews. So this is a big change, which maybe I mean, I can also give you another last example. We were using one of the tools for our collaboration, communication, and mailing systems, and it was having very nice collaboration, and people were not using it as usual. I mean, because we were all having physical meetings and something like that. And 24th of I think March, 24th of March, the lockdown was declared last year. 25th and 26th, 4,000 employees started using that platform without a single day or single hour of training. I mean, why this transformation? Because people have had no choice, and they had to join the meetings. They have to be on the platforms, which we were struggling for so many years. Please start using this, please start using this, and nobody was focusing about. We were all traditionally using the video conferences and something like that. And suddenly the whole thing changed. And now suddenly, after implementation of video conference for last 4 or 5 years, video conferencing system is becoming redundant. It's not required in the organization. We are all talking with all these service providers, please take it back, I don't need it. I mean, there is some lock-in period and other stories. I'm not going into that, but situation is, the transformation is happening through a force, and that force has been created, unfortunately, by the virus. Thank you.
Necessity is the mother of, and necessity and force is the mother of invention here, and very clearly it is leading to democratization also, and very happy to see that the democratization is also happening towards the upper portion of the pyramid. We generally look at the lower portion of the pyramid getting democratized in IT, but even the top management is now sort of taking cognizance of. So I think my last question, Ankur, you wanted to say something?
Just a quick point to Parna's point that came to my mind. I think these crises typically, especially the one we are facing right now, I mean, they have the dynamics of pushing people out of comfort zone, right? So, for example, when we were talking about shared economy and the case example that was being mentioned, I mean, we would realize that the 2009 financial crisis that came in, right, as that time underutilized assets, because people really needed money as new source of income, and that gave all this drive of shared cars and shared Airbnbs and all of that. Similarly, when SARS pandemic came, correct, and citizens really had to shelter in one place and kind of stay locked in. That's when social commerce and e-commerce in China really boomed in. So I think some of these, what we are seeing inside our organizations, but overall outside as a society also, these pandemics or these major trigger factors, or I mean these climate crises, right? So significant usage of solar equipment and electric cars is also a driver for that. Otherwise, we would have continued using what we have been. So I just
yeah, absolutely, yeah. My last question for this panel, and maybe some aspects of the question have already been answered, is about if we can put a blanket word on all these technologies that we have spoken of here and there, Industry 4.0. So do the speakers here believe and they think that the pandemic has actually accelerated the need to move into Industry 4.0? What are the must-haves and have-nots when it comes to adopting the various Industry 4.0 technologies? So I had thought I'll ask Ankur this question first, but whoever wants to take this up, and certainly we would like Ankur also to answer, but whoever wants to take this up, has this pandemic accelerated the need for Industry 4.0, and what are the haves and have-nots for successful adoption?
So I can take maybe 2-3 points broadly. From my perspective, yes, pandemic has pushed for Industry 4.0. I'll say it's common sense, because lot of dependency on people, if you want to eliminate, I think Industry 4.0 is the way. More from a perspective that your key processes, when those are people dependent, and then situation like this, everyone started revisiting the strategy with respect to the, I'll say, we normally say Industry 4.0 as eliminating the media breaks, which is the communication gap between man to man, man to machine, machine to man, and finally machine to machine. So entire strategy started revolving around that. And in do's and don'ts, of course, I think industry for implementing Industry 4.0 is not implementing technology. It's a holistic culture change across all aspects of the organization. And I think gist of our today's discussion is the way digital transformation is happening, that is happening on shop floor also. And that's where I think it's all overall push to the Industry 4.0.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Anybody else on the impact of the pandemic on the Industry 4.0 journey, and what are some of the haves and have-nots that should be in place for the transition to be successful? Besides obviously visionary technology leaders, besides that.
No, I think, I mean, maybe I'll go ahead of Vinod and Srikanth, and they can contribute. I, like Yogesh was talking about, it's now becoming mandate or something like that. So it's fact for everyone. See, I'll tell you some macro vision of Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 started with Germany, then went to USA, and then came back to Europe, and then again all the countries of Asia has started adopting, I mean, including China. But look at India. I mean, India till last 2-3 years, I mean, the proliferation of IoT, RPA, or whatever was extremely low. I mean, this I had a lot of discussion with Ankur and other team members as well on RPA implementation. We had some use cases, but we never thought of it. Now, what is happening now is Industry 4.0 is not just an option for you. If you don't do this, actually, like Yogesh was mentioning, you are going to be disrupted. Point number one. Point number two is like Vinod was talking about earlier, the Gen Z or Gen Z or X or whatever you say, Y. So I think their interest in the organization lies in how modern and smart you are. If you're not smart and modern enough, you will not be able to attract talent for sure in the organization. So Industry 4.0 is definitely give you that edge or advantage in terms of attracting talent from outside. Third is technologies or these systems were anyway available earlier. Industry 4.0 is actually making those technologies smarter. So when I say smarter, you can depend with less number of people. I mean, we were discussing last few months back that how can we run the entire operation with 50% of people in the shop floor. Suppose 50% people are on leave, or they are affected, or they are just coming 50% only. You don't have the full strength in the shop floor. How can you still maintain your shop floor? So this traditional data entry in the SAP systems and other SCADA or maybe MES or something will not work. You need technologies which will connect, like Vinod was saying, man to machine, machine to man, or machine to machine. This connectivity has to be established, and Industry 4.0 actually is supporting us in that. So my view is it is not an option. If you are not on the right journey right now, you will get disrupted very soon. The way China and the other European countries are advancing, I think very soon we will look like a dinosaur, and then I don't think we will be neither competitive nor relevant in the market. So it's not an option, it has to be done. Now, the only thing is some prioritization here and there can happen. Like we have 69 plants, and obviously in 69 plants, you cannot implement in one shot. So we have some phases, some some kind of roadmap or something. Accordingly, we are going at. So, but it's not an option today for sure. Thank you.
Ankur, you would like to say something, and then maybe we can take some audience questions after that.
Sure. I think Industry 4.0, and as at Accenture we call it now X.0 because the numbers keep changing. This was actually to Yogesh's point, right? It was gaining steam. They were deploying it for the past couple of years. The pandemic, to some extent, and the lockdowns and budget cuts forced some organizations to pause some of this transformation. But as manufacturing resumed, and these initiatives have become more important than ever, right? As Parna also mentioned, and Yogesh was also mentioning, because there is an opportunity to reimagine, correct, with the digital and sustainable operations. Early successes have already been have shown the companies that they can start the journey in small ways and scale these efforts over time. But it's much more than resilient operations. It's about balancing the long-term sustainability and productivity. And in today's day and age, and we've been talking about people and our health and safety, and they've been moving out. Worker safety is becoming a key issue through this pandemic, and along with the sustainability, product quality, and productivity, which will dramatically influence this. There are various agile methodologies that companies are adopting to pick, and there are various use cases as Industry X is being adopted. The larger pieces of Industry X, such as end-to-end advanced robotics automations or the use of blockchain technology in logistics, may be put on hold, possibly, until there is greater visibility following the pandemic. However, there are near-term opportunities, to begin or reignite at a high speed, right, where the impact can be seen in the immediate basis.
Thank you. If none of the speakers have anything to add now, maybe we can check if there are any audience questions and take some audience questions. Rajiv, Ashok, are there some audience questions that we can quickly take? We have just a few more minutes. Actually, we have run out of time. But okay. By the way, this entire discussion will be available on video for anybody if he is interested, he or she is interested. So we can take them, they can take it from us, and if there are any questions after that, I think everybody would be very happy to answer. So I think in a nutshell, this pandemic has actually created new challenges and critical moments, and therefore the industry leaders, the technology leaders have taken this as an opportunity to bring in transformation, to start new journeys and new experiments because of variety of reasons, including lesser pressure on operations. So I think this is a very happy news, and this is a very happy development. And I think this, I think, is in the nutshell, this is how I would summarize what we've discussed so far. I think industry leaders have taken those steps, and they are moving ahead and using more smarter technology for competitive advantage. Ankur, would you like to sum up in a few minutes, and then we can sort of disperse?
Sure, Ibrahim. I personally have thoroughly enjoyed this time spent. I think a great insights from all the eminent leaders there. And for example, right from Rajesh mentioning how they've emerging from the BS6 challenges to COVID, kind of doubling down and taking small steps, small digitalization, uh, impact of absence of workers, to Yogesh talking about all the leapfrogging already done in Industry X or Industry 4.0 that they were doing to create a society impact. I mean, it is. Yogesh wasn't aware of the ventilators that were manufactured, and again 5 weeks manufacturing oxygen cylinders. Hats off! I mean, phenomenal, rapid pace of. We talk about agility, but this is true agility in motion, right? And trying to manufacture without oxygen, which is your key ingredient. I mean, those are like extremely challenging environments everyone's been through. So I think Vinod, you summarizing it extremely well in terms of the three categories of technologies, the existing tech, new tech, and upcoming tech, and how you're seeing all of that. It was fantastic to hear your thoughts. And Parna, how you mentioned about the capex economy to the data economy, and shared your perspective on how I think logistics, supply chains, manufacturing, the core of operations have become so important now, and some of the support functions got a little bit sidelined because the heart and soul has got deeply impacted. And Srikant, you sharing your perspective about the new technologies. And I think I'll just like to share one thing around the multiple technologies we've talked about. In our tech vision and research, it also came up that the top three technologies, which are all executives across the board, which they picked were cloud, AI, and cybersecurity, right? And the next three which were picked up were blockchain, data analytics, and IoT in terms of adoption of how they're adopting. So they did also talk about experimenting with emerging technologies like 5G, smart materials, neuromorphic computing, biocomputing. So all of these, I think the adoption of this is really rapidly increasing. So I think towards the end, I'd like to say that there is a Chinese proverb that I really like, right? It says like this, that when the winds of change blow, some people build walls and the others build windmills, right? So I'd like to say that we have an exciting future ahead. It's a future of hope. It's a human empowerment, human potential, working with technology in new ways, solving some of the big problems that are intrinsic into the world today, and that will all be done with an approach of using windmills or developing windmills rather than walls, right? Thinking differently as we deal with new realities. Um, uh, I think. The insights shared by all the leaders here, and possibly, hopefully, the technology vision that I shared with you all today, hopefully will provide everybody who's listening to this panel discussion a little bit of thought starters so that you can navigate your way as you build the windmills that you need in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Rajesh, who's not there with us, Yogesh, Srikant, Vinod, Parna, and Ankur, for your really very, very valuable time and such insightful gems about what's happening and how it's actually a time of not getting disheartened, but using this as an opportunity for transformation and new experiments. Thank you so much. I would also, we will hopefully get into more such discussions in the future. And as I said, a recording of this video deliberation will be available. Whoever wants it, and they can get in touch with us, and hopefully we will have more of these discussions. Once again, thank you so much on behalf of DataQuest and Cyber Media. I would also like to thank Vineet, Ashok, Rajiv, and Kalraji for this. Thank you so much, and look forward to meeting you again. Thank you.
Thank you
so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.